Why, hello, party people. Today we're going to be talking about one of the new INCARNON weapons, and it's one of the stranger ones, the Nami Solo. And it's strange because it doesn't really have a sort of a home right now. It doesn't feel like this weapon actually fits anywhere in the game with any build, and at the same time it looks like it has so much potential. So let's take a look at these Incarnon evolutions, and you'll get maybe some idea of what I'm talking about and what the issues with this weapon is. So the first thing you'll probably notice is that the Incarnon evolution itself doesn't actually have any form of gimmick. You just transform it into the Incarnon form and you get more range, melee damage, sprint speed, bullet jump, all of that normal jazz, but no new functionality. Now what is important though is that +3 range is significant. It is a lot of range. So this actually does turn the INCARNON NAMI Solo into a melee weapon that can kill enemies from quite afar. So if you swing, you're going to hit a lot of stuff, especially if you add things like primed reach on top of that. It goes from 2.5 to 5.5, which is like excellent reach for a melee weapon. But that's it. That's all it's got. For the second evolution, you can either increase damage by 80, it's for both of them, and you can get on equip extra attack speed for 4 seconds, which sounds nice. It's if you're weapon switching a lot, then you can, if you switch a lot between shooting your primary and then switching to melee, then you get a lot of nice attack speed. Now this clashes with a later evolution, unfortunately. And then you have the Master's Flourish that says it gives you plus 20% health regeneration for 10 seconds when you do a finisher. This appears to be bugged right now. It doesn't actually give you a 20% health regeneration. It seems to just be 20 health per second, which isn't what it says it's supposed to do. So this might be a bug that could be fixed in some sort of later hotfix, but for now that's what it seems to do. Evolution 3 is where things get interesting. You have increased combo duration, which is just nice for just a normal melee with just normal functionality. Makes it good as well for some stat stick weapons where you're trying to maintain combo, for example, for Baruch. You also have heavy attack wind-up speed. Now, this one, you might think that's nice if you want to do like a heavy attack build. But what's important to note about the Nami Solo that might throw you off a bit is that while the Nami Skyla, if you look at the stance mod, is one of the dual swords, you'd think then that the Nami Solo would be something like the Skana, which is a sword. But no, that is not the case. The Nami Solo is in fact a machete. So it uses the machete stance and the machete combos. And the machete combo does not really have like forced slash procs on its heavy attacks. It does, but it's a heavy attack combo and it only has like a forced slash proc on the last attack in the combo. So if you just do a normal heavy attack swing, you're not going to get that forced slash proc. Now, with the Incarnon evolution, with like increased melee damage, increased combo duration, and the final evolution, which is just a bump in either crit chance or status chance, or crit chance and status chance. Like, obviously, purely stat-wise, this is currently the best machete in the game. So if you really like machetes and the machete stance, then by all means, that's about what it is. But it doesn't really have any sort of gimmick other than just being the best machete in the game. But then we come to what could potentially be this weapon's gimmick, and that is the first of the Evolution 3 upgrades. If you only have a melee weapon equipped, then you get increased falloff by 60%. Now, falloff is not the same thing as follow-through. Follow-through is a stat that when you hit multiple enemies, the first enemy is going to be hit for 100% of the damage. The second enemy is going to be hit for less than that as your sword swings through multiple enemies. So the higher a number of follow through, the more you do like the full damage to every enemy you swing your weapon at. But that's not what this is. This isn't follow through. This is fall off. And fall off typically isn't really a thing for melee weapons. The only thing you can do with a melee weapon that has fall off is ground slams. Fall off means that your weapon does less damage against enemies that are far away, and it does more damage to enemies that are close. Typically there are two weapons where fall off is a relevant stat, one of them being shotguns and the other being explosive weapons with radial damage. So for melees we're only talking about just ground slams, which isn't really interesting, which kind of limits the functionality of this to not being very functional at all. Because like if you could imagine just having a melee weapon that increases the fall off of shotguns and of explosive weapons, like that would be super potent, which is probably why they added that limitation, that you have to not have anything but your melee weapon involved in order to get this. But that's sort of sad because it doesn't really do anything for melee weapons. You'd want this for a primary or a secondary or some other weapon. So what exactly is this for? And all I can deduce is that this is for something that doesn't yet exist in the game. There are a couple of things, a couple of use cases. Okay? One of them being that even if you only have a melee weapon equipped, you could still use a heavy weapon, right? If you have a launcher for that. So, is there any heavy weapon where this stat would be meaningful? And there is one. It is the Corvus. The Corvus actually has fall off. So I guess if you like running around with arch guns, then you could equip the Nami Solo and you could run with the Corvus and it would get a bump in its fall off. That's about it. What else is there? Well, there is Necromechs. The Necromech has the Archebex, which is a weapon that has like explosions and radial damage. But the Archebex actually does not have fall off. Fall off 0%. So it deals its entire damage to everything in the explosive radius. It does not care about fall off. So it wouldn't do anything for the Void Rig, unfortunately. And that only leaves one potential theoretical use case, and that would be exalted weapons. So what do we have here? Well, we have Titania with her Dex Pixia dual pistols, and problem here, these are hit scan weapons. They do not have fall off, so they are not affected by this. You have Hildryn. Hildryn has the Balefire Charger. The Balefire Charger does not have fall off and is not affected by this. And then I started thinking, what about exalted melees? And then you have Excalibur, because Excalibur's exalted blade, right, actually does have decreased damage depending on how far away you are from enemies. So it does more damage to enemies that are close and less damage to enemies that are far away. So you'd think it has fall off, but it actually doesn't. Whatever this is that governs the exalted blade is unfortunately not fall off, it's just something else. And I have tested the damage numbers and it is not affected by the INCARNON NAMI solo, so it does not get increased fall off. Otherwise, maybe there would have been a use case specifically for Excalibur Umbra or Excalibur Prime to run the Nami solo. They could get increased fall off, and then they could kill enemies with the Exalted Blade from further away. And that could have been a use case for this weapon, but unfortunately, does not work for Excalibur. So currently, the Nami solo with this little cool, interesting gimmick doesn't actually work with anything that exists in the game right now. I'm making this video because it has potential. We could imagine a Warframe that does not yet exist in the game, that has an exalted weapon that actually has falloff, be it an exalted shotgun, an exalted explosive weapon, something like that. In which case, the INCARNON NAMI solo would be very, very interesting, and would probably be like the meta pick for that Warframe that does not yet exist. But unless you find that Warframe sometime in the future, then unfortunately the verdict on the INCARNON NAMI solo is that it is simply the best machete in the game. But other than that, has nothing really spectacular going for it other than like a lot of range. So I guess all of that is to say that it is actually a weapon to sort of keep your eye on, potentially, for the future, depending on what they make for the game in the future. For now, it is nothing special. It is the best weapon in the game for a Warframe that does not yet exist. That is my take. That is my verdict on the INCARNON NAMI solo. So if you found that interesting, then, thanks for watching. Please leave a like, consider subscribing if you thought that this was useful or informative. And I'll see you again tomorrow for something completely different.